Hey, we've got a monster today. Breaking news in the NFL. We also have Ted Cruz coming up at 10:15. Hockey player charged with manslaughter. Should players be charged for incidents that happen on the ice or the court? Kermit, Washington, famously December 6th, let me make sure I have the date right, 1977, punched Rudy T. It was all the rage. Should he be charged? We're going to talk to Kermit. Coming up here at 10 o'clock, Armando joins. What a show. We got breaking news when we come right back. Don't At Me starts right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we have breaking news from the NFL. Deshuan Watson is going to have shoulder surgery, and he will be out for the remainder of the year. My good friend, the great Kevin Custer, Cleveland Browns fan, said Cleveland just cannot catch a break, and they're right. Here's what happened. Deshuan Watson, both of these happened in the first half, and you got to give respect to Deshuan Watson for playing through it. High ankle sprain, which is really painful, happened in the first half, but that's not what's going to keep him out. What's going to keep him out, ladies and gentlemen, is the shoulder. It's called the glenoid, which is the socket of the shoulder. He's got a couple broken bones in there, shoulder surgery required, and he is done for the year. Hey, look, I'm sure he'll massage his way through it, and we'll all get to a happy ending. Speaking of massaging happy endings and just really full of crap, Dan Orlovsky, who is trying so hard, God rest his little heart, as they say in Kentucky. Dan Orlovsky is trying. I mean, he's vocal, he's voracious, he's funny, at least to him and others, and he tries so hard to get down with the fellas. But Orlovsky said yesterday that he is, quote, hearing that Bill Belichick will be moving on from the Patriots after the season and that he will be taking over as head coach and general manager of another team. And it has already been determined. I'm not buying it. Look, I don't think Orlovsky with his platform would come on ESPN and say that unless he would. Like, he says stuff. He and RG3 try so hard to be all things to other people. And I used to like Orlovsky until I got too much of him. You know, the only person that I don't get too much of is me, but I got to live with myself. What am I going to do? But the fact of the matter is, you will never, ever, ever hear anything from anyone, anywhere associated with Bill Belichick. I know how this works, man. Back in the day, Bob Knight was going to take the Wisconsin job. In fact, had taken the University of Wisconsin job, but Wisconsin leaked it. And by leaking it, Knight figured, you know what? I can't trust these people, so I'm going to stay at Army. Next thing you know, he's the Indiana head coach. That's how old school works, and Bill Belichick is old school. Here's the deal. The deal, if there is one, would only have been made between an owner and the general manager. That's it. A lot of people say, well, you know, a lot of people are involved in these deals. No, they are not. Every job that I've ever been offered, it was between me and the athletic director, or me and the station manager, or me and my boss, the program director, or me and Clay Travis, or me and Gary. It did nothing. It had nothing to do, and nobody else knew. I'm just telling you, I was sitting there at West Virginia reading all these things. I knew I had the job, but I'm reading all these reports. We know we had so-and-so in today. No, you didn't. I've already got an offer right there on my desk. So don't buy this for a second. In the real world of players and media, they're dying. I mean, they're jumping over one another to put themselves in a position of knowledge. I know what Belichick's doing. There is no chance. Zero. Now, when he goes and becomes the general manager of whatever team, hopefully it's the Colts, and the coach, hopefully it's the Colts, although we just beat them, so maybe it shouldn't be the Colts. I'll take him as general manager of the Colts. But the truth of the matter is, nobody's heard nothing. Maybe the seventh guy down the road, intern, maybe the Connor Stallions, look him up if you haven't been following our show, of a staff is talking, but he's not talking from knowing. I'm just telling you, guys like Knight or Belichick or me or and I'm not in their class as a coach, don't get me wrong, I understand that. But guys that understand the process and how to do things, they don't let these things out. Not a chance. Not to anybody. If you don't deal with the owner or the general manager, and maybe not even both, then it might get leaked. But Belichick, as a current coach, as a current guy with Robert Kraft, no chance is he saying to anybody at any time, anywhere, what he is doing. Probably not even, I don't know if he's got a life partner, a wife, a girlfriend. I think he broke up or she broke up with him years ago. I don't know. But what I do know is this: it ain't just coming out from some slappy. It just ain't. I have heard that. I have heard more and more of that over the past week. I'm not a reporter, all that stuff, but I have heard that. I have heard that's going to be the case. I have heard that's going to be the case, and that the location has already been determined as well. No, he hasn't. Not from anybody. I will put Cashola on this. Now, hang on, caller. After the season, if Belichick is maneuvering for leverage, if he has to, maybe. But not even then in this case. Belichick is not that stupid. Belichick doesn't leak. Belichick understands that in every organization there is a mole. In every organization there is someone that has to talk. In every organization, like Connor Stallions, there are people doing work that cannot be trusted. Everybody knows that. No chance. Unless he is tied into Belichick or the owner, that's it. And I doubt that Belichick is leaking stuff to Dan Orlovsky. Maybe he is. But if, in fact, wait for it, if, in fact, Belichick then does go somewhere, you're going to hear, I told you. No, you told us nothing. You told us nothing. I don't want to hear it. It's all crapola. Stop it. Stupid. All right. I mentioned December 6th, 1997, Kermit Washington, Rudy Tomjanovich. It was the punch heard round the world. Kermit thought Rudy Tomjanovich in the middle of the fight was coming up on him. He turned and destroyed Rudy T's face. Now, there was talk that Kermit was going to face criminal charges. People were all aflutter. Kermit's going to join us coming up at 10 o'clock, but now there have been criminal charges. A couple weeks ago, a man named Adam Johnson for the Nottingham Panthers was on the ice. It's an English hockey league. Another dude named Matt Petgrave, made a backwards flying karate kick with his skate, slashed his throat, and Johnson ended up dead. Blood poured out. When you slash someone's throat, blood pours out. It was horrific. It was god-awful. I mean, horrible. I do think we have the video of it. Here it is. Boom. Right there. You see him coming, he's coming, and there he goes. Now, I don't know why you would have to do that. The defense is going to claim, you can see how he gets hit in the front right there and spins him around. Look, I don't know hockey enough to know whether you can do that intentionally or not. I don't know why you would do that if you are this guy, Petgrave. But what I do know is Petgrave is being charged with a crime. Manslaughter. Now, in all of the papers, and this is very weird, they're not announcing who the guy is. They're not announcing Petgrave's name. They're not saying his name. It's very weird. It's very, very odd, actually. But that's what they're doing. So, Petgrave arrested, charged, manslaughter. Adam Johnson dead. Now, this is horrific. And Johnson's family, I think, is handling this about as well as you can. Look, not all of us are my friend Uwe Blop. Not all of us. Uwe Blop is the best human being alive. Uwe Blop, my college roommate, 7'2", first-round draft choice of the Dallas Mavericks. His son was killed, Christian, by a guy, another 18-year-old, back from college, punched him on the side of the head, caught him right, killed Christian. Uwe then said, hey, look, I can't put this kid in prison for something that, well, frankly, we probably all did in college. Certainly I did. He was with me a couple times. I went 3-0 in college, by the way. Anyway, not everybody's like that. Johnson's family isn't crazy. Johnson's family is just saying, look, I'm glad the police have stepped up. I'm glad the police are taking this serious. A life has been lost. A life has been lost. Foolishly, a life has been lost. And the problem you have is this. Do you charge for on the court? Now, I got to tell you, of course you do when it comes to manslaughter or murder, simply a death. If somebody dies, there is no question you do. I have always said, like last night, Draymond Green is choking Rudy Gobert. Look, I don't know that anybody should be charged in that kind of action. It shows once again, it really does. It shows once again that Draymond Green is a punk, will always be a punk, will never not be a punk. You know what I'm saying? So this gets a little deeper. Here's the deal. Petgrave, in the first home game, Petgrave's the guy that swung the skate, killed Adam Johnson. This is how sick people are. Petgrave is obviously not with the team. But they showed Petgrave on the big screen. Got a standing ovation. I want you to think about that. Got a standing ovation. We wholeheartedly, Weston Michaud said, stand with Matt Petgrave. The hate that Matt is receiving is terrible and uncalled for. I was at ice level on the bench closest to the incident. I saw both players moving fast. It's clear to me his actions were unintentional, and anybody suggesting otherwise is mistaken. Well, maybe. Maybe. But you got to charge it. Guy's dead. I mean, look, if we're going into the boards and I check you, guy dies, okay, I'm not charging that. But when you swing a deadly weapon, which is a skate, and you slice a guy's throat, I got to tell you, you got to charge it, period. You just do. Guy walks up to somebody's bench and punches a guy. I have no idea how Draymond Green wasn't charged for punching Jordan Poole last year. I have no idea. Look, I'm not, hey, you got to charge every guy, but when you do something that causes a death, at the bare minimum, you must investigate, you must look at all sides, and you must, if you find enough evidence, even close to enough evidence that you think you can get a conviction on, you must charge the crime. Period. Again, guy goes to the basket. I hard foul him. Guy dies. I'm not going to charge a guy for that. In the course of basketball, it's a basketball play. Now, the argument is going to be made, was this a hockey play? Did Petgrave get spun around to the point where his back heel came up and it clipped and killed Adam Johnson? I don't know. I wasn't there. See the video? I'm guessing that can go both ways. I also don't know, like, I know how to hurt you playing basketball. Like our favorite punching bag, Greg Doyle, said, well, I want to hit you, talking to me. So he wanted to box. I'm not boxing a guy that's a trained boxer. I said, we'll play basketball. He said, we'll do that after we box. I said, because he said, I want to hit you. Well, let me tell you something. On the basketball court, I know how to hit you. I know how to double you over. I know how to make you call for your mommy. And I'm guessing in hockey, they know how to do this. I'm guessing in hockey, they understand how to go about the business of slashing a guy with a stick, with a hand, I don't know, maybe even a skate. I feel like this is close. Don't know where I'm at with it other than to say I'm glad they charged him. They should charge him. Have to charge him. I would be curious. I want to go to this. I would be curious on the YouTube chat. Now, we've shown this numerous times. We've shown this to you. We've slowed it down. Dylan is doing a great job of showing this to you. Okay? What do you think? What do you think? I'm very curious about YouTube chat. Do you think this warrants manslaughter? Do you think this is nothing to see here? Move it along. Let's go elsewhere. Right there. What do you think? There's 300 plus of you on the YouTube chat. 24-inch Dubs said investigated. One Nation Underground. The initial kick was to the head. The added jab was to the jugular. Watch how he extends his leg. All right. Boom. Keep it going for a second. Watch how he extends his leg here. Boom. Keep it going. Oh, we don't have it after that. I thought we did. How he extends his leg. Look, again, this is all going to be shown in a court of law. Again, I have no problem. JPG rules. I think the guy should be charged with a crime. Blades belong on the ice. You never leave the ice with your skates, period, Kevin Wolf says. Look, I think personally, as I watch this, I can't tell. I want to tell. I want to, but I don't know why you would be in that position other than you're going really fast, you hit yourself, you spin, and you hit somebody. That's the only way I can figure this. That's it. I cannot figure this any other way. Most of you, and we have a Twitter poll out, excuse me, most of you are saying yes. In fact, I think right now it is 81 on 27 votes. It's 78-22. I'm just telling you, I think it's a tough one. I do. I think this is a tough one. But I'm going to go with I got to charge you. Then I got to see if I have any high-tech, hi-fi, I was going to say, what is this, 1978? High-tech video where I could really parse it clearly to see what happens. It is not that difficult to tell intent. It's not. People say it is. It ain't. It's not. No. But the fact of the matter is, this will go to a court of law, and I got to tell you, I think it should. I do. Hey, college basketball last night. Look, I like Jay Billis, but God dang, I do. I like Jay a lot. He was very complimentary of me the other day at a speech he gave. Very complimentary. I really like him. But it is okay in college basketball to have enthusiasm for a great game. Guys are making shots in the second game, Kentucky and Canada. Well, that was a nice move. He went to the basket. No, come on. Come on, people. It's okay. Like between Hummel and Billis, I'm going to have to watch this all year. And I got to tell you, I need Dickie V. I do. I need Dickie V. I got to have somebody that makes me want to have fun watching the game. That's why most of you come here, because you're watching a guy with his little jersey over his back with this thing here. I mean, I'm going the wrong way, but I have fun doing this show, so you have fun watching. It's the most fun one guy can have in his basement without Jergens and a moist towel. It is. And you get to see it every day. And you get informed, you get enlightened, you get betting picks, you hear about Phil Sack, you hear about Doyle, you hear about Fine, you hear about all these great people, who, by the way, I'm going to take a lot of money from this afternoon, but I digress. It's okay to have fun. I understand. We all understand college basketball program. There's a ton of it. I mean, you got so much, and it's a diversity dump. Hey, look, wait, you're a woman? Get in here. African American? Get in here. Half and half, get in here. We all know that. There's 8 million games. But the guys that I have to watch, look, I get it. They're not former coaches. So they're only going to give a limited insight. But you got to do it, for God's sake, with enthusiasm. Man, I don't know. I know the bosses, Eric Shank and Brad Zager. I don't think anybody's teaching anything about enthusiasm. Well, Indiana doesn't feed the post. Guy hits a great shot. Oh, that's a good look for him, and he made it. Shut up! Can I get some enthusiasm, Zager? Can I get some enthusiasm, Shanks? They showed Normie Williamson yesterday. Have Dickie V, even though he's not speaking right now, let him write out how to be enthusiastic on a broadcast. That's number one. Number two, don't worry about Sparty. Sparty will be fine. Sparty stinks right now. Izzo's losing his mind. I was going to say something I shouldn't, but I won't. Izzo's out of his mind. He's crazy, but they got enough talent, and this kid Walker's really good. They're going to be fine. They made a comeback. Duke's fine. And that's the problem. All these teams are fine. Like you watched yesterday, did you come away with either team, that game right there, going, man, I got to watch these guys. That's going to be fun. See, when you saw Zion Williamson, Tyler Hansbrough. I'm just trying to think of guys that kind of captured the nation over the last few years in college basketball. You're like, I got to watch these guys. I didn't see anybody yesterday, with the possible exception of crazy Hunter Dickinson, who we got to listen to for one more year, and then he goes by the way of Nigel Hayes, Frank Kaminsky, Jordan Bohannon, of guys with mouths that we got to listen to. And then they go away, and then they're begging to come on shows. But anyway, I'm just telling you, man, Michigan State's going to be fine. Duke's got nobody interesting. The big poll, my people, I'm half Polish, half Serbian, Filipowski or whatever. If you end in ski, I'm all in on it. Or if your name has some weird W's and vowels like my mother's maiden name, Wurzba. If you got that, then I'm all down with you. Like if you're an itch or an ick, I'm all in on that too. So anyway, the big poll last night was pretty good, Filipowski, but he's not anybody. I got to watch Duke play. I can't name you one guy except that guy that kind of looks like a chick, Armando Bacot at North Carolina. Kentucky's got a bunch of guys. If DJ Wagner's the greatest player in the history of the world sucks. But we got saved by Kansas. My finances literally got saved by Kansas because I started live betting them when they were down 6 late. I'm like, yeah, Kentucky can't hang on. They don't have any nutsack. But the truth of the matter is, it got sexy. I also took them because I'm a betting god. I took them at -5 before the game, Kansas. Thank goodness the last 3 rattled in and out, so I pushed that one and won massively on the live bet. That's my new go-to. But I got to tell you, after watching, there's 3 guys that maybe you can watch. All right, I'll give them to you. Hunter Dickinson, even though he screams and he cries, and I wasn't sure he makes his team ultimately better, particularly defensively. But, hey, look, he had 20-20. I mean, he was pretty good. And then that guy, DeJuan Harris, the point guard for Kansas, was fun. A little too loose, a little skip to my loo, but, hey, fun to watch. And then the Walker kid for Michigan State. But Michigan State stinks right now. But those 3 guys I'll take a look at. But there was nobody else. Like, I couldn't tell you a guy, like, there's the big Pole, Filipowski. He's my people. When you're Polish, you're so white, you're clear. Thank God I got the half Serbian, so I got the beautiful olive skin, and we never need Viagra when we're Eastern European. I'm just saying, I got a stash just in case. You know what I'm talking about. But that's how we roll as Eastern European, Serbian, and, of course, the big Poles. We don't need Viagra. Big Poles, we're clear. Don't be in the sun too long. And you know what? We can generally fight our way out of situations. But that, I digress. But anyway, so Hunter Dickinson looked good. Duke looked fine. Michigan State's going to be fine. Okay. But the team that I thought was really good, I mean really good, because I was flipping last night, and if you're smart, this will be your home for all things college basketball. By the way, Illinois State 11.5 giving to Eastern Illinois today. Illinois State's going to win that by probably 15. Take that bet. But the team that I liked was Illinois. It wasn't Illinois. It was a team that beat Illinois. Number 4 in the country, Marquette. Marquette went into Illinois, and it was back and forth. And Marquette's got a kid named Tyler Kolek. I'm going to say Tyler Kolek's Polish as well. What's up with all these Eastern Europeans balling? I mean, what? We don't have a Shaquille out here? Where are we? But anyway, so Tyler Kolek is probably the best point guard in the country. He went all Deshuan Watson. He shook off an ankle sprain and dominated Illinois down the stretch. I'm a big Brad Underwood fan. I like Brad Underwood. Played against him when I was in college. I think I played in the game he didn't. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I like him. It was Indiana against Kansas State. I started on national TV. I told you this before. A family member called me after the game. True story. Family member called me after the game when I only made 1 of 2 free throws with like 5 seconds to go. I think the line was 8. I made a free throw to make it 8. I missed the one to make it 9. A family member called me and said, "Hey, Daddy, what the hell you missed that free throw for?" I go, "What are you talking about?" "Well, the line was 8. I go, "Shut up and don't ever call me again." And then I took a walk on campus because I was nervous that the FBI were going to come to Reed Curry too, come party with the animals. Anyway, this guy Kolek's pretty good. He was the Big East Player of the Year last year. And Shaka Smart, one of our favorites. We love Shaka. Anyway, he's back home. He's comfortable. He's from Wisconsin. And he has got the Warriors rolling. So Kolek turns his ankle in a win over Ryder. He fights it off because that's what men do. That's what us Eastern Europeans do. Hey, look, the family motto, Dakich style, is sack up. You can put sack the hell up. I got a sister-in-law, Roberta Dakich. Listen to this. So Roberta Dakich has knee replacement surgery 6 weeks ago. Guess what she had yesterday? Monday, excuse me. The second knee replaced. Guess what happened? Her blood got thin. They couldn't give her pain meds. That's right. But because her last name is Dakich, she sacked the hell up, fought through, and did what Dakiches do. Screamed, yelled, but dealt with it. Now she's on pain meds. 2 knee replacements in an 8-week period. Roberta Dakich, you rock. I sent her a text. I said, I don't know about her maiden name is Kleinman. I don't know if you're the toughest Kleinman, but you're the toughest Dakich. I got to get the knee replacement, assuming I call this lady back, who I keep forgetting to, on January 8th. You'll hear me whining like a freaking little whatever. But I'll be here. Last time I had surgery and did a show, I took 2 Percocets or whatever the doctor gave me, and I fell asleep during an interview. That's why you listen to this show. Middle of it, I take a dump, might fall asleep, but I'm all in on Marquette. I am. I like Shaka Smart. He's one of my favorite coaches. I've known him since he was a third assistant at Akron. Good dude. Really good dude. No, great dude. And a terrific coach. Really is. Brad Underwood even said about this kid's ankle. Did you see his ankle's black and blue? He played 37 minutes. Hey, I don't know what to tell you, but that's what he did. All right, look, in Chicago, Ozzie Guillen is considered a legend. 2005, the Chicago White Sox ended the long, miserable drought of White Sox, Cubs, North Side, South Side, not winning a World Series. Ozzie was the manager. Ozzie had a big mouth. Ozzie left. He went to Miami. And then, it's so stupid, he somehow, some way was dumb enough in Miami to support Castro. I don't know what to tell you. I don't. You're in Miami. There's a ton of Cubans in Miami that are dying to get away from a communist regime. And this idiot, who at the time was about the biggest name in Miami, decided to say or send his support of Castro and his regime. Are you crazy? So he gets fired. Nobody will hire him. He's on TV. But I must say this about Ozzie Guillen. He's interesting when he's on TV. I mean, next time you look at Fox or CBS or NBC and they got 8 guys on a panel, half of them are hammered, the other half haven't paid attention, the other half are Gronkowski going, I don't know, even though he's Polish. Anyway, Ozzie Guillen is interesting. And as you know, Double D like him some interesting. So here's the deal. Ozzie Guillen says Craig Counsell is not an upgrade at manager for the Cubs, even though they are paying Craig Counsell buku dinero to be an upgrade for the Cubs. Ozzie says this, nope. If you don't have a ring on your finger, you're nobody. Oh, really? I don't know if that's true. You're nobody. You can be manager of the year this year and next year. You can be fired. At the end of the day, if you don't have a ring on your finger, I don't care how good a manager you are. Well, Ozzie Guillen's an idiot. There's a show called The Chicken Runs at Midnight. My friend Rich Donnelly, you probably saw it. Rich Donnelly, third base coach of the Marlins with Jim Leland. Rich is a friend. Rich's daughter, who is dying of cancer, talked about The Chicken Runs at Midnight. She just started talking about it. Well, I got goosebumps right now. Craig Counsell was nicknamed the Chicken. Craig Counsell scored the winning run in the World Series at midnight for the Florida Marlins at midnight, or whatever the hell they're called. Miami Marlins. I don't know what the hell they're called. I want you to think about that. And my man Rich Donnelly, who has seen so many tragedies, including his daughter being shot in Vegas, his son being killed, helping somebody else change their tire on a road, my man broke down as he was the guy waving Counsell in. He broke down because as Counsell scored, he just happened to look at the clock somehow, some way. Maybe it was a watch, whatever it was. And he realized, hold on, wait a second. The chicken runs at midnight. He was a chicken. He scored at midnight. Counsell's got 2 World Series rings. I don't know what to tell you. He was the NLCS MVP. I don't know what to tell you. Look, here's the deal. If you don't like Craig Counsell as the manager, fine. But don't talk to me about not having a ring. Don't talk to me about that at all. Ozzie Guillen is just being stupid. He must have wanted the Cubs job. Anyway, in my view, I think Ross did a tremendous job with the Cubs. I think they did more than expected. I think he was great with the people, great with the players. I was really shocked. Is Counsell going to do a good job? I expect that, because now the Cubs are in the position where they better win now. Yeah, all right. I mean, look, I guess. I don't think Ross did a bad job. I remember Tucker Barnhart, the catcher, telling me at spring training that this Cubs team has some really good veterans on it, and they're going to surprise. Tucker got cut, which sucks. But anyway, he got cut middle of the season. That sucks. But the truth of the matter is they did, and then they folded. And here's what I like about it. It's the George Steinbrenner theory. It's the Bob Knight theory. We're Indiana. Bob Knight used to say, we need the best. We fly charter. Best gear, best uniforms, best shoe deal. We're Indiana. George Steinbrenner took over a reeling New York Yankees franchise, said, screw this, we're New York. I want the best manager. Who's the best player? Reggie Jackson, get him here. Who's the best pitcher? Catfish Hunter, get him here. Who's the best closer? Rich Gossage, get him here. That's what you do. Period. Period. That's why I like this move for the Cubs. The Cubs are a major market team with a beautiful television contract and all the money in the world. In fact, the Cubs not only control the buildings around Wrigley Field, they control the secondary ticket market. They're making scratch, hand over feast. And the owner came up to me, Ricketts, and said he knew me. And I've been a fan since '69. Don't at me, people. Get rid of them. What would be a show of ours without a little Michigan football talk? Our good friend, I'm trying to get him on, Finebaum. I used to come on Finebaum's show. I liked him and he liked me. Anyway, our good friend Finebaum is not having Michigan fans. Now, I put out the other day one of the grossest, biggest, fattest, most ridiculous LGBTQ pictures ever of an angry LGT big old, I don't know if it was a dude or a chick, I don't know if it was pornography, I don't know what the hell it was, but that's Michigan fan behind a computer going crazy on me. They've insulted my wife, my ex-wife, my mother, my son, my daughter. They've done everything, all behind fake names. Michigan people I like. I own a home in Michigan, true story. Just bought my mother-in-law's home about 6 weeks, 2 months ago, whatever. But Michigan fake fans suck, and Finebaum is having none of it. Let me read this to you, shall I? This is the most obnoxious fan base in America. Now, I'll debate you on that. I mean, the Kentucky basketball fan is an idiot. By rule, he's an idiot. Gracious person, nice person, but an idiot about Kentucky. Fantastic. I coached at Calipari's fantasy camp a few years ago in the Bahamas. I spent a week with Kentucky. Love the people. But they're idiots when it comes to Kentucky. They just are. I'm sorry. This is the fan base that literally thinks the world revolves around University of Michigan football. Michigan has what? 1.5 national championships in 70 years. Did you know Bo Schembechler never won a national championship? Its football program is really becoming just comical in terms of what it's trying to represent out there. Well, he ain't wrong. Now, I'll give Michigan fans this. They got a nice team. I mean, I'm going to have Urban on hopefully next week as we preview the big game. But they got a good team. They're a tough team. And frankly, if Michigan or Ohio State is going to beat Michigan, you're going to have to be very tough. He also calls them sniveling. And I got to tell you, it's exactly what they are. That is the perfect word. They're just sniveling. They're sniveling. What you do when you snivel, let me give you a snivel. Here's Harbaugh's backside. Here's Harbaugh's backside. Where God split him. That's sniveling. That's what Michigan fans do. They snivel. They snivel up the backside of the coach. Now, when the coach loses, you know what they do? They don't snivel. They take his money. They call him a loser. They don't allow him to even go shopping. The only ads he gets are to keep your water off. That's right. The only ads Harbaugh could get were ads to tell you to turn your water off. When you're shaving, turn your water off. Look it up. They took Harbaugh's money. All I'm saying is this. All I'm saying is, hey, he ain't wrong. And they are sniveling. Just sniveling. And there's a guy named David Schuster. David Schuster looks like a Michigan man. East Coast, black hair, probably this tall. Anyway, he says ESPN, at Game Day, top advertisers, Aflac, AT&T, DoorDash, Geico, Home Depot. Here's the alternatives you can go to. State Farm, T-Mobile, Grubhub, Car Progressive, Lowe's. Boycott ESPN. Fire Finebaum. Corrupt. Big Ten. Michigan. Go Blue. All right. Finebaum also said that Harbaugh, I'm quoting here, is living in an alternate universe and being detached from reality. As someone who deals with fan bases from primary one conference, but it branches out a little broader beyond that, I've never come in contact with a fan base that is as insecure and consumed with their own self-worth in a false way. There's no more sniveling fan base in America than Michigan. Yeah. Nature Boy Ric Flair's pissed. Nature Boy saying, thank you, Desmond Howard, for putting Finebaum in his place. Woohoo! Was Desmond Howard sober when he did that? I hope so. Because he did. Look, I get it. You know, Desmond got on there and he went wild. He went crazy. Okay, fine. But everybody seems to be missing the point. You can defend Harbaugh all you'd like. No problem. It's what you should do. But also acknowledge your own school, Michigan, suspended him for 3 games earlier in this season for being a cheat and then lying about being a cheat. Well, it was just cheeseburgers. No, it wasn't. And then the Big Ten suspended him for what? Being immoral? Nope. Being incompetent. Hey, man, I don't know. I hired this guy. I know what he did. Oh, okay. Yeah. Millions of dollars to Jim Harbaugh to not know what a guy he specifically hired is doing when he's standing next to him at a game with a folder this thick? As the great Mike North, who really started talk radio in Chicago, used to have a segment. Who you crapping? We'll be right back. I got Ted Cruz at 10:15. I got Armando coming up. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Armando's coming up. And Kermit Washington going to talk about the Rudy T punch. Should players be charged for on-court, on-field activities? Stay right here. Go tell your friends. I'm looking hot today.
It's spooky season, and in 2023, for some, they're most afraid of getting canceled for a costume. So have snowflakes ruined Halloween and sucked all the fun out of it, or can we bury cancel culture for good? So my question is there a costume that maybe you wore in high school that you can't get away with now because of cancel culture? Like you'd be canceled because you wore it?
I'm not afraid of being canceled. I can only cancel myself.
So I'm here asking, is there anything that you dressed up in the past as that you'd get canceled for now?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think cancel culture is kind of taking the fun out of Halloween a little bit?
Yes, a little bit.
People's costumes are lame and boring now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, for me personally, not as much, but I know that my mom told me that back when she was in elementary school in the 70s, she dressed up as someone from like Japan or something and really overdid the facial expression or something. And so now that wouldn't fly as much today, I guess, but yeah.
Cancel culture meets Halloween. Has it ruined the fun? Are people's costumes just like too boring now?
I think so. I agree with that. Everybody's too soft and sensitive about it. So I do think so to some degree, right?
I think that it was a lot cooler when you dressed up like a Native American. Like people wouldn't get mad at you.
I was actually a pimp when I was 16.
I was looking at a priest outfit and I was like, I don't know if I can really be a priest. Someone's gonna complain.
Yeah.
Donald Trump costume.
That's offensive?
Yeah, automatic fight. Automatically. Even if you're a Donald Trump supporter, like you look like Donald Trump, you might catch one. But I like Donald Trump.
We love you. I love Clay Travis. Yay!
So, what are some overrated costumes that you've been seeing this year?
Oh, Taylor Swift, Kelsey.
Too much?
Yeah, way too much. Yeah, you've overdone it. Come on.
What are you dressing as?
Travis Kelsey.
You know, just when many in the NFL were starting to turn the page and get positive about Deshuan Watson, the Cleveland Browns quarterback has been announced as having shoulder surgery and out for the year. Interesting, his shoulder hurt in the first half, 2 broken bones in the socket and a high ankle sprain, both in the first half. Armando Salguero joins us. I don't like this backdrop. I mean, I love OutKick, but I'm used to him being on the beach. I'm used to him being in a stadium, but that's all right. Hey, Watson out. Was I right about that? I thought the game the other day, his performance, particularly late, kind of turned a lot of people towards him as opposed to, what we've heard over the last couple of years.
Yes, a lot of people that aren't, massage therapists, but that's another story. Absolutely. Look, he was looking like the player that the Cleveland Browns bargained for when they gave him a guaranteed $230 million contract, fully guaranteed, no less. However, now what we have is a guy that will be done after 6 games this year, played only 6 games last year, and he is, by the end of this season, Dan, going to be collecting a total of, over the 2 years, $92 million. And for that $92 million, he will have contributed 14 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. Not exactly what the Cleveland Browns bargained for. And obviously, no one can predict injuries. They happen all the time. But nonetheless, the facts are the facts. He hasn't lived up to or been able to live up to what the Cleveland Browns hoped when they traded for him and paid him.
I'm going to switch gears real quick. Coaches being fired. We've seen it in college. Now we're seeing it with Ken Dorsey, man. I mean, look, I guess as a coordinator, you're just 1 bad game away or 3 bad games away. What do you make of Dorsey out? And more importantly, what do you make of what's going on with Josh Allen and the entire Bills organization?
Yeah, so that, Sean McDermott would argue with you and tell you it's not 1 bad game or 3 bad games. It's 10.
Right.
It's 10 games now this season when the Bills' offense hasn't been right. Something's off with that unit that has no excuse for being off. It's not like they're ravaged by injuries. It's not like they don't have a good quarterback. It's not like they don't have talent, a great outside receiver, an emerging tight end. You can argue with the schematics. You can argue with whatever you want. But the bottom line is they're a roller coaster ride. They've been up and down. Josh Allen is inconsistent. He leads the NFL in interceptions, and he shouldn't. And he hasn't progressed to being the elite, consistent quarterback that everybody believes and everybody in Buffalo thinks he should be. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was in that Zoom press conference for McDermott And McDermott is talking about how his mental state is probably not where they want it to be. And I'm talking about Josh Allen's mental state. And I'm thinking, really, dude? This is how far it's fallen? The quarterback's mental state is not right? And he was talking about how confidence isn't right and the energy isn't right. So all of those things, they go back to two people or three people. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, the head coach, and Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator. Is Sean McDermott going to fire Josh Allen? No, I don't think he is. Is Sean McDermott going to fire himself? No, I don't think he is. So what happens is, Ken Dorsey, you're the dude. You're the guy on Star Trek with the weird colored uniform that goes down in the landing party and doesn't come back. Because Captain Kirk always comes back, Spock always comes back, and Dr. McCoy always comes back.
I got to tell you, I've never watched one Star Trek episode, but I did like the description. He just got a weird uniform, and you know what? He never comes back. I love it. I got to ask you about something. Dan Campbell and the Lions are getting all this praise, and rightfully so, because they won, right? I mean, we all like winners, but I got to ask you. He goes for it, 4th and 2. All you got to do is kick a field goal. You take the lead. I don't know. I liked it, but I got a feeling the football gods, who are notoriously brutal, are going to come back on this at some point if he tries that again. Remember I said it, Armando. The football gods are tough, man. They're tough. They're tough.
Yeah. So the NFL is a great equalizer, and it humbles everybody. And, Dan Campbell, first of all, he's already felt that wrath a lot in his first couple of years as the head coach. But they now have a team that their strength is the offensive line. They now have a team that they have a strong running game. They now have a team where the head coach believes in his players and didn't just do it that one time, that 4th and 2 that you mentioned in that game. He did it 4 times. I
know.
He has sent a message, and they all worked. He has sent a message that I believe in you. We're going to get it done, and we're going to chase the win. We're not going to let the win come to us. And here's the thing. He does it in a manner that is so much different than what Brandon Staley, who was on the other side on Sunday, does it. Brandon Staley does it because the analytics say do it. It's 51% that you'll succeed, and it's good. It's 49% that you won't, so do it. And he does it because the analytics say so. Dan Campbell does it because he feels it in his heart. He does it because he feels the game and how the game is going. And I think people respect that a whole lot more when you're doing it because you're into the game and you're a former player and you feel the momentum of the game and you make a decision based on that, as opposed to the nerd in the press box, analytics nerd in the press box going, I just got off my calculator, coach. It says you should go.
Yeah. No, I get it. No, I'm with you on that. Bill Belichick. Look, Mac Jones, I know he probably shouldn't have put in what's-his-face. All right, fine, Zappy, but Mac Jones wasn't getting it done. That interception against the Colts was so bad when he had a guy wide open. Is Belichick, Orlovsky's saying he's hearing Belichick has already got a destination. I'm not buying that. Belichick's too secretive. But is Mac Jones the future? Is Belichick the future in your mind?
Well, he's obviously in last place in the AFC East, right? They have the worst team in the AFC East. They are, I think, one game out of last place in the entire conference. And so, if not in last place, I haven't, like studied the standings like that. But I can tell you that any coach who is there, and you combine that with the fact that they didn't go to the playoffs last year, they didn't go to, they haven't won a playoff game since like 2018, I think. And the standard in New England is we go to the playoffs and we compete for Super Bowls. Any coach in that situation is under duress, especially when that coach is also the general manager and the players that you picked are terrible, and the roster is flawed, and so the team is flawed. They have no outside receiving threats. The quarterback is not it. The defense is which is what you are specializing in, isn't it? And you're cutting guys that you drafted last year, which they did this week with Jack Jones. So any coach, even a 6-time Super Bowl winner, is going to be under duress in that situation. I covered the Miami Dolphins when Don Shula, who once upon a time authored a perfect season, he was in that situation. The difference was Don Shula, he made the playoffs. He got to, the postseason, and he had a good quarterback, and they were still fighting when he got basically ushered out. So if Don Shula could get ushered out, Bill Belichick definitely could get ushered out as he's chasing Don Shula for victories. As to the Dan Orlovsky thing, there's a thing called tampering in the NFL. If what Dan is saying is true, that there's some sort of already under the table deal of where Bill Belichick is going to go next year, and Robert Kraft gets a hold of that, the New England Patriots will have like tons of first-round draft picks next year from the tampering investigation that the NFL is going to conduct.
I've also thought that Belichick is old school, and he's not going to let anything out and he's not talking to anybody. If he does have a deal, I don't think he does, but if he does, he's only talking to the owner or the general manager. Hey, I do got to ask you though, Mac Jones, and between Mac Jones as the quarterback, and I saw something the other day analytically that this is maybe the worst draft class in NFL modern history. It all does fall on Belichick. He got all the praise as the general manager and the coach when they won, but this whole thing falls on Belichick. And I don't know. They fired Bobby Knight in Indiana. They fired Don Shula. They cut Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. I mean, NFL and NBA and college, it's kind of brutal out there right now. 81-95 is what he is without Tom Brady. That ain't great.
As a renowned American philosopher, Janet Jackson, said, "What have you done for me lately?" Bill Belichick, come on, sing it, Dan. You know the song.
No, I do, but no, I'm not. I'll have a wardrobe malfunction, and things will get spicy around here. You know what I mean.
The bottom line is, look, Mac Jones got broken last year when Belichick went haywire and somehow thought that a defensive coordinator would be the best choice to be his offensive coordinator, and that a special teams coach in Joe Judge would be the best quarterback coach. And that just messed up Mac Jones altogether. And now this year, it's going forward with what? With the fact that there is no outside help. Their wide receiver room is substandard. They don't make a lot of plays, and Bill O'Brien has no patience for Mac Jones doing stupid stuff, as we saw on the bench in that moment where he's just yelling at Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is looking like a puppy getting beaten by its owner, and cowering like that. So, look, that situation, the dynamics of it is all messed up, and yet that's another reason why Bill Belichick at the end of this season and after the season won't be the head coach of the New England Patriots anymore.
Really? You think it's his choice? It'll be mutual? What do you think? Is he going to retire? Will he show up somewhere else?
Yeah, so like I wrote on OutKick, they don't, Robert Kraft is a smart dude. He doesn't want to fire Bill Belichick. Number one, how do you fire a guy that's won you 6 Super Bowls? Number two, how do you fire a guy that's chasing to become the winningest coach in the NFL history? And number three, he's under contract. And so if you fire him, you don't get any draft picks in return if he goes somewhere else. What you're more likely to see is a situation where they amicably agree to part ways. Belichick, thus, is still under contract to the New England Patriots. And when he goes somewhere else, assuming that's what he wants to do, then that other somewhere else team will have to give up draft picks or a draft pick to the New England Patriots in what is effectively a trade. I will say this, if you think that's outrageous, Robert Kraft gave up a first-round pick to get Bill Belichick, and he got a first-round pick to let Bill Parcells walk to the New York Jets. So it's not the first rodeo for Robert Kraft.
Yeah, that's interesting because people have a tendency to think that these things happen in a bubble or in a vacuum. Robert Kraft has shown, history repeating itself. Your point is great. He has shown that he will not just let something go. He's going to get something. It's kind of been the Patriots' way, whether it's players, the whole thing about Belichick getting rid of a guy too early. He's going to try to get something. He's not giving up anything for nothing. I guarantee you that.
I mean, it's smart. It is the thing to do.
Yes.
If you are Robert Kraft and you have a roster that needs a serious infusion of talent and probably definitely needs a starting quarterback.
Yeah, no question. Hey, Armando, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Dan, always.
Love talking to Armando. He's the best in the business. All right, we'll be right back. Kermit Washington is going to join us. Look up Kermit, the punch of Rudy T. And I got to go to the bathroom. I got to hustle here. We'll be right back.
It's been nearly 8 months, but at last, the manifesto belonging to the trans shooter, the one who shot up Covenant Christian School right here in Nashville and murdered 6 innocent Christians, including 3 children, was reportedly leaked earlier this week. Here's a refresher. 28-year-old transgender Aubrey Hale infiltrated the Covenant School on March 27th on a quest to slaughter innocent Christians. Her rampage came to an end after brave Metro Nashville officers took her down. We knew shortly after the massacre occurred that several journals belonging to the shooter were uncovered, but authorities and even lawsuits went to great lengths to keep them from the public. Why, you ask? Well, the contents, of course. So let's get into that content. The long-awaited and long-buried snippets from that manifesto expose a motivation and driving force behind the slaughter that is even darker than we've speculated. At least the pages that are now public, which so far no one has denied, are authentic. The scribbles titled Death Day discuss the trans shooter's desire to kill white people with white privileges. The shooter also gloats about being ready to kill and ready to die doing it. And those are just the parts I can read aloud to you on this platform. Let's be clear. These writings were never released by the authorities, as is typical for other manifestos, for manifestos written by the more advantageous to the narrative perpetrators. These 3 pages were leaked by conservative pundit and host Steven Crowder. We don't know who gave him these pages, but you know what? Thank goodness he has them. It's BS that these writings have been hidden for this long. The public deserves to know what motivates hate. And guess what sure as hell appeared to have motivated this shooter? Racism, all right, against white people. And guess what? The desire to gun down white people is indeed racism and is indeed a hate crime. Just not the racism that fits the left's favorite narrative, which is why they don't want to talk about it.
You know, Kermit Washington, and I've never met Mr. Washington, but I followed him, and most people did going back to December 6, 1977. But you really don't know Kermit Washington if you judge it by that. This is a brilliant man. This is a man who was an underappreciated high school and college player that carved out a terrific career in the NBA, doing it through hard work. He is not defined by one incident, a punch of Rudy Tomjanovich. He's defined by the man that he is, and anybody that knows or studies Kermit Washington understands that. Kermit, thanks for joining us. You know, the reason I wanted to talk to you, you were involved in arguably the most highly publicized on-court incident, I don't know, maybe in NBA history, maybe there's been more, Malice in the Palace, that kind of thing. And now we see a hockey player being charged with manslaughter for a skate to the throat. Were you ever concerned that you were going to be charged for the punch on Tomjanovich? How did that all play out for you?
Well, you know, the funny, it's not funny at all. It's a situation where this is 1977. And the situation is that they didn't have cameras in every area of the basketball court as they do now. And the situation is like the guy named Kevin Kunert was on a team with the Houston Rockets, and he was me, Kareem, and him going for a rebound. Well, we turned around because it was a fast break, and Houston had the ball. So what I did, I put my arm in front of Kevin Kunert and tried to propel myself to catch up to the fast break. Well, as I did that, he elbows me in the face. Well, I thought it was an accident maybe, but then he turned around and hit me in my face. And then I realized then there was no accident. So we got in an altercation with a fight right there at the end of the court. And as we're fighting, I think Kareem grabbed Kevin Kunert and it was going to break up the fight. And I see Rudy Tomjanovich running straight at me. So I thought he was going to hit me also. So I turned and swung. And so that changed that changed my life a lot. Back then, you have to understand the situation is not really much difference now, but without having all those different camera angles, people said to me, "Why did you turn around and hit Rudy Tomjanovich?" I said, "Well, he's running at me and his teammate has elbowed me and punched me in the face." I said, "What am I going to think?" But it's the way that people think back then, and maybe they still think now that we're bad guys, and we want to fight. No, that's not true at all. In my 10-year career of the NBA, I didn't have a single technical. I'm not the kind of person, even though they labeled me as an enforcer, I played aggressive because you had to play aggressive back then and to be successful. But it wasn't to be like a hockey player that's going to fight every second. You don't want to fight. You just want to play basketball. But back then, the fines were about $50 if you got in a fight. But then after me, they became a very, very high fines if you got into a fight.
I remember the Sports Illustrated cover of Maurice Lucas, and they called it the Enforcers. Like every team, and I think you were one of them. Do you think players should be charged for on-field, on-court incidents?
Now, ask me that question again.
Do you think players should be charged in a court of law for on-court, on-field, on-the-pitch incidents that occur in competition?
That's a good question. It depends how bad it is. Because what would have happened if, well, there was a lawsuit, a big lawsuit that Rudy won. Now, if they had had cameras and everything, I think it would have been justifiable. Maybe, let's say this, a mistake that I made. Let's use that word. It's just like a policeman that's walking down the street and two guys are coming at him. One guy attacks him, and then another guy that he's with runs at him. So what is the policeman going to think? I mean, those are mistakes. The policeman is just like myself, is going to say, "Hey, this guy's coming to get me too." I didn't know who Rudy Tomjanovich was, but I just knew that his teammate had attacked me, and I see another guy running. Now, you have to understand, back in the 70s, there were a lot of fights and there was a lot of aggression in the game of basketball. The people weren't making money like they're making now. I mean, back then we might have made 100,000, but the government would have taken with taxes half of it. So you had to, you couldn't get suspended. I mean, you didn't want to get suspended or to get kicked out the league because you didn't have the ability to save enough money to make it, from that point on.
Rudy, Tom Janovich went on to coach. You have done a number of things and been very successful. Do you have a relationship with Rudy?
Oh, we talked a lot. Yeah, after that, I told him that, I probably misjudged him. I mean, now here's the thing. You have to realize that there were a lot of fights in the league. And a year before, when I was playing with the Lakers, playing Buffalo, I got in an altercation with John Shoemate, and 3 of his teammates jumped me. So it was it was 3 of them, and I forget Don Adams. It was another guy named it was 3 guys. Oh, Fred Foster and another guy jumped me. This is during the game. So you have to be, you have to keep your eyes on a swivel back then. The game was slow. The game was very aggressive, and it wasn't a fast-moving game as it is today. The only team that really ran like that in the NBA was the Boston Celtics.
It is funny. We glorify that now, right? We say that, well, back in the day, it was a tougher league. It was all those kind of things. I live in Indianapolis, and the Malice in the Palace was a big deal. Now, that deal was different, I would think, because there's fans involved, right? I mean, that's why I don't know whether Artest should have been charged. I really like Ron Artest. I've known him a little bit, not much, but enough. I really like him. The fan got charged. But when you go into the crowd, that's a little bit of a different deal, is it not?
Well, here's the thing. That situation, got up in the stands. Well, at least one thing you realize that the ball players, they really cared about winning. They don't have a nonchalant attitude about, the game, it's not as important. It's just like hockey, just like baseball. I mean, they have fights in baseball. They have fights in hockey. Now, they have fights in football. I mean, are you going to go after, depending what kind of fight it is? But hockey players are the worst. But they're glorified for their fighting ability. In baseball, when a guy attacks the pitcher, I mean, you know what? Unless it's something really, really bad, like Johnny Roseborough taking a bat at was it Don Drysdale? Well, that's an assault. But sometimes it's a game of aggression in basketball, football, baseball, and there's a pecking order, and you don't want to be at the bottom of that pecking order. And if you let people take advantage of you or bully you or whatever, it affects the rest of your game. And I'll give you a good example. AC Green was a pretty aggressive player. I remember he got in an altercation with Reed, he played for Phoenix. He went to North Carolina. Well, Reed hit him and knocked out his teeth. And all AC Green did from that point on was look around for his teeth instead of fight back. Well, that showed everybody in the NBA that AC Green was all bark and no bite. So that affected his game from that point on.
Betting nobody messed with you from that point on, or did guys try to challenge you?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. You don't want to have altercations, but you had a lot of very, very tough guys in the league back then that were willing to fight in a second. You had the Detroit, Pistons. You had Lonnie Shelton. You had Maurice Lucas. You had Truck Robinson. You had a lot of big, strong, aggressive guys that were no nonsense. And they were not going to, it's not like it is now. Guys make so much money. They don't want to get fined because they might lose $100,000, $200,000 or whatever. but it was a different game back then and a different mindset. So guys played hard and they played aggressive. And because the game was slower. Now the game is so fast that, it's not as much pushing around or shoving. There's no more hand checking. There's no more no more certain plays like that anymore.
No, you're right. I mean, Isaiah told me about Isaiah when he went to the rim against Karl Malone. Karl Malone split his head open. He said he almost died. Now guys waltz. Hey, Kermit, it's great to talk to you. It's an honor. And thank you for sharing some of your insight to an incident that, look, I followed you. I followed you greatly. And that incident doesn't even close to define you. But I thank you. Thank you so much.
You take care.
Thank you. That's Kermit Washington. Kermit Washington went to American University, was a 2020 guy, ended up making a long career in the NBA. And when I followed and I saw the incident, I started following Kermit Washington. I realized, wait a second, this is a very intelligent man. This is a guy that's getting a bad rap from the media, very bad rap. And glad he had a chance. I'm glad he came on the show because he was exactly what I thought, just a humble, smart man. And I've always admired Kermit Washington. I really have. I'm Rudy Tomjanovich. I'm Serbian. Rudy was Serbian. And we're all, but I got to tell you, I understand exactly what Kermit did. We've all been in that situation at some point in our life. So there's a scuffle. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. We'd go play in the park, and there were fights all the time. And if someone came up from behind you, what the hell are you going to do? I've always said that. People want to complain about Kermit or say that he did wrong. He did nothing wrong. And I agree with what he said. If you would have more camera angles and you would see, and I've studied this thing, he did absolutely nothing wrong. Now, Rudy Tomjanovich was doing what guys do. You saw it last night with Draymond Green. Draymond Green last night grabbed Rudy Gobert by the neck. Well, if Rudy Gobert had turned around maybe a second earlier, I guarantee you he'd have punched Draymond Green. No, that's a fact. It's just a fact. So I appreciate Kermit Washington for doing that. I appreciate for him for taking the time, and regardless of whether you believe, sports should stay sports. When you kill somebody like the hockey situation with Adam Johnson dying at the hands or the skate of Matt Petgrave, you're going to have to investigate it. There is going to be an arrest made. I believe there is an arrest made in the hockey incident that we showed you earlier. But the fact of the matter is, just because you're on a court does not give you carte blanche. And again, I do agree with what Kermit said. You can't, people say, well, you can't tell intent. The hell you can't. If I'm in a fight, and again, last night's a perfect example. If you're in a fight and all of a sudden, last night, if Rudy Gobert had seen Draymond Green come around, he could have turned around, and I guarantee you, he would have taken a swing. I don't know whether or not it would have connected or not, but he certainly would have taken a swing at him. And if it had connected, that would have gotten interesting. We're waiting on, Senator Ted Cruz to join us. I got to tell you what I like about Senator Cruz. I've become like a kid, and I got to stop. Because if I don't stop, then I'm going to lose my marriage. Because every night, Lee and I have a great time. We went and played golf 2 days ago, pickleball last night. I played pickleball. I had a 45-minute workout. QC Kinetics is changing my life. But, hey, look, then I went out and I did all this stuff, raking and blowing in hills of leaves. I got home. She made dinner. I got in. Next thing you know, I got a glass of wine. I'm sitting just having a glass of wine. But I get over on my chair. Lee comes in on her chair. I got the game on last night, and I'm watching TikTok videos. That's right. I am. I'm watching different videos, Instagram different videos, and I tell you my favorite ones. And for some reason, you don't see these. It's Ted Cruz grilling some of these folks. Eventbrite is censoring the world that we live in, right? Let me know when the senator is on. Eventbrite was censoring a speech that our friend Riley Gaines gave, and only because us here at OutKick, mostly Clay and I was going to say Kermit Washington, Ted Cruz was involved, only because of the pressure put on. Did Eventbrite all of a sudden change what they were doing? Did Eventbrite all of a sudden go, wait a second, no, we'll promote Riley Gaines. We have canceled Eventbrite. We've used Eventbrite. We will not use Eventbrite. But there are just a number of things like that. There just are. There are a number of things going on in the world, and Ted Cruz is always at the middle of it, and he embarrasses damn near everybody that absolutely gets in front of him. No, it's fascinating. I understand, we got to hate Ted Cruz because he's a Republican and you're a Democrat or blah, 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 blah. You know how the blah, blah, blah. You know what? This entire week has been spent listening to blah, 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 blah. It has. This entire week has been spent with people going, hey, I got to tell you. Hey, Michigan's this. You're that. Hey, it's just blah, 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 blah by fake accounts. That's all it is. That is all it is. Period. Just noise. White noise. Again, as we wait, I got a story. And you're going to know this story, and you know it's going to happen. Adam Silver hints at the NBA adding international expansion teams. So Adam Silver says this, while expansion to Europe, for example, would be tough due to long travel times, large time differences, an expansion to Mexico or more teams in Canada could be much more within the realm of possibility. All right. Yeah, I ain't mad at you. Mexico City is easy in terms, it's a high altitude, 2,000 feet higher than Denver, so that affects the players a bit, but it's a shorter flight to New Mexico from New York than it is to LA. So one day, I think it would be incredible to actually expand to a market like Mexico City. What are you going to get to buy it? A cartel? What are you going to get? One of the Mexican drug lords? I mean, look, the NBA is totally, completely in bed with China. Apparently, so is San Francisco. They got all the homeless off the street. They lined the streets for the Chinese dictator to travel through the streets. They lined the streets with flags. So now you're going to tell me as a player you want to go live in Mexico? I don't think I do. Hell, people that live in Mexico don't want to live in Mexico. What are they doing? They're coming across the border in droves. They can't wait to get out of Mexico, and you're going to send NBA players in Mexico? Oh, what could go wrong there? But I think we all agree that the NBA and certainly the NFL want more money, need more money, have to have more money because, well, we're giving Jaylen Brown $60 million a year. Now, you just asked me a question, didn't you? That question was who? Who are we giving $60 million a year? Yeah, I said Jaylen Brown. Jaylon. Brown. Dan, who's he play for? Plays for the Celtics. Hey, Dan, where'd he go to college? I think he went to Cal and was so good at Cal they didn't make the tournament. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh, he did. I'm just $60 million a year for 5 years. In fact, over $60 million. Now, I'm no math major, but that's $5 million a month. I'm no math major, but that's over $1 million a week. 52 weeks in a year, last I looked. So here's Silver. In the meantime, we're playing in Paris in January again. It's very much a global league. We got players from 40 countries. Over a quarter of the players were born outside the United States, and especially now with digital media, streaming media. You guys know, I'm sure you get fan mail from 200-plus countries. That's where our games are carried. He's right. The dude is 100% right. He is not wrong. He's right. And there is only baseball, and I guess hockey to some degree. You know, only football in the United States is played by the United States. You know, occasionally there's some guy that comes over. He was a rugby player, and he gets in a game, and everybody loses their mind. We had a guy here, Daniel something. He was a rugby player. He lived out here somewhere. He ended up getting arrested for being an idiot. But you're always trying to switch guys. Well, the United States is the only place that plays football. Turn on a baseball game. You got people from all countries, and it's made baseball really good. Turn on basketball. The American player, ooh, tell you what, he's going by the wayside. Let me ask you a weird question. This is always a question. Who's the best white American basketball player? You know what I mean? The best white American basketball player is who? Man, am I missing somebody? Is there somebody obvious? And don't be stupid and say Luka Doncic. Don't be dumb and say that. Come on. Come on. You know what I'm saying? No, don't say Luka Doncic. Who? Because he's not American. Who is the best white American basketball player? I guess for a while, well, I was going to actually say Steve Kerr, but Steve Kerr wasn't American. Steve Kerr was Canadian. This guy named Lee, who was a dunker, he played at Florida For a while, he was. It's a good question. Now, you're all saying Larry Bird, but I'm saying currently in the NFL. Currently in the NFL. Please, what are you people doing? We got zillions of people here, and we got to get more likes. We got to get more likes. Cruz is going to be at 10:45. Who is the best white American basketball player? John M. says Tyrese Halliburton. You know, I guess it'd be interesting if you have a white mom or dad and a black mom or dad. What if you said you were white? You wouldn't get the special treatment. It's always an interesting question. It is. It's fascinating to me. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Who is it? All right. While we wait on the great Ted Cruz, I think 10:45. Look, he's a senator. What do you want me to tell you? Let's go to some emails, shall we? I like our emails. Russ Leonard, you email and fool you. Hey, Dan, enjoyed your Joe Heisman interview. Seems like when anyone is asked, this is a good point here. Listen to this. Seems like when anyone is asked about the Redskins or the Indian name changes, they're apprehensive or guarded about what to say. I think when fans chant Redskins or whatever, 99 out of 100 are doing so with pride. I agree. Not as a derogatory or insulting manner. When you eliminate the mention of Indians or whatever from conversations, they disappear from history. Enjoy the show. RL from Indy. You're right. Like there are, like even if you say the word black, like man, I'm wearing black today. Oh, man, is that all right? I mean, am I gonna have? I mean, is it the summer of love? Is everything okay? I mean, whoa! I said black. You say Indian. Oh my God. Oh my God! I can't believe he went there. He said Indian. Oh my God! He said the Redskins. Oh geez, we all do it. We all do it. We do. We do. You know we do. Well, I'm wearing a color that is not white. I don't want anybody to get mad, you know. Johnny Buzzard. Hey, Dan, Thanksgiving is coming up next weekend. Very serious food question. What is the best Thanksgiving dish you've ever eaten and who cooked it? Sorry in advance for causing internal warfare prior to the holidays. My mom, Rhubarb Crisp, has always been the Buzzard favorite. Well, I got to tell you, I believe the year was 2000. I had a player on my team named Anthony Stacy. Anthony Stacy's mother wanted to cook Thanksgiving dinner for our team, and we had them all to our house. We had a little house. It was we called it the Birds neighborhood. It was a doled home, those of you that know doled homes. But you know what? We had them over. And the fact of the matter is, in having everybody over, Faye Stacy cooked. And I mean, she came in with a van load of stuff. It was pretty good. In fact, it was the best meal I've ever had at Thanksgiving. What can I tell you? I don't want to offend anybody. My mother, when we were kids, she would make Thanksgiving, and it was awesome. And then my dad would get mad because we had an electric, old-fashioned electric knife, and it was always going out. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Lee can sling the caca. Lee can. I'm telling you right now. Lee is hot as hell, can golf in the 80s, beat me in pickleball, can wear a bikini, and every 20-year-old girl's like, holy cow, GF, will make rude jokes, won't fart in front of me, and can cook. I mean, can cook. I struck gold. I tell her every day, I do. True story, guys, and you should do this. I tell her every day, thank you for marrying me. I do. All right, the Cashman, by the way, go to thecashmanwins.com. Check it out. Smartest sports bettor, not named Phil Sack, that there is. But Cashy does things smart. He's analytical on it. Dan, a couple additions to our NFL MVP futures. Dak Prescott plus 4,000. I think this is great value for how Dak is playing right now. I've never been a Prescott guy, but he looks good right now. Cowboys play Washington twice, have games against Carolina, a struggling Buffalo team, and a Dolphin team that can be passed on. I'm with you, Cashy. Plus 4,000 is insane. Dak leads the league in completion, 5th in touchdowns. second off of the lead, third in rating, third in QBR. Stroud plus 2,500. Stroud's completion percentage is lower than I'd like for an MVP candidate, but he's winning. 15-2 TD interception ratio would be a great story, and I firmly believe voters for these awards like a good story. $5 to win 150 is a great investment to me, as Houston still has Arizona, Denver, Tennessee, and Indianapolis on the schedule. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. As soon as this show's over, I'm putting $100 on it, baby. I'm putting $100 on Prescott. I think that the tide has turned. Now, I know Jalen Hurts is the man, but hey, plus 4,000. Whew. Wow. That's pretty good. All right. We got another email. We got a voicemail. We got a voicemail from our Nemesis, 24-inch Dubs. 24-inch Dubs, what do you got?
Hey, Dan, this is 24-inch Dubs. I'm calling to apologize. I talked a lot of mess about the Colts, and the Patriots just stink. We're terrible. Mac Jones should just stay in Germany. Don't bring him back. Belichick, I don't know what to say. It's just terrible. Blow it up. Bye.
Isn't it amazing? Now, 24-inch Dubs, much respect, yo, but you went literally from this is the greatest, he's the best of all time, to one game in Germany, they suck. All right. I love you, 24-inch Dubs. I appreciate you, but here's what my Bobby Knight and me would say. You ready for it, 24-inch? Here's what the Bobby Knight and me would say. It shouldn't take me calling you out to get you to make that call. It should. It should not take me going off on you, 24-inch Dubs, for you to have made that call. That call should have been made Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Look, I get it. You got up, you watched the game. Maybe you go to church, you take a dump, you have a little lunch. You're settling in for the second half of the 1 o'clock games. I better call Dakich's show to apologize. It should not have taken me. That's what Coach Knight always used to say. When a family would have our team to dinner, and he would always say, did you guys send her flowers to Mom, Mrs. Rink? Like, no, we didn't. You know what I mean? Shouldn't have taken Coach Knight. He's right. Should not have taken Coach Knight that time. But there you go. If you want to join, 929-687-3941. That's the phone number. We'll play him. We'll play him bigly. OutKick Dakich at gmail.com. Ted Cruz coming up at 10:45. We'll be right back.
A beast of a biological man, Artemis Langford, scored a major pervert victory after a Wyoming district court judge ruled the women, the real women of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority, couldn't prevent Langford from living in their sorority house. This despite their claims of Artemis, a 6'2" giant, having a visible erection around the ladies, despite their claims that Artemis would sneak photos of them at slumber parties, despite the fact that trans Artemis is a heterosexual with sexual interest in women and a Tinder profile seeking to match with women. This isn't just a miscarriage of justice. This is a perversion of women's rights, the feminist movement, and the right of real women to feel safe in spaces meant for them. I am repulsed and disgusted. But Artemis? Artemis reportedly broke down in tears after the judge dismissed the lawsuit, saying, quote, maybe I can just be another student on campus, another regular sister in the Wyoming chapter of Kappa Kappa Gamma. Maybe I can just be me. Or maybe you could have the decency to allow women to have a safe space of their own in a sorority house without having to be exposed to the outline of your erection, Artemis. But just look at how the joke of a news outlet, the Washington Post, is choosing to frame this story. Her sisters turned on her? Are you freaking kidding me? The situation is egregious enough without the media actively demonizing the women who simply wanted to feel safe in private in their own sorority house. And this is also downright gross. Why should the identity crisis of one biological male trump the safety, privacy, and rights of these young women? This is not a win for inclusion or equality. This is a win for perverts who will use this decision and this BS narrative to prey on women.
All right, Dylan. Dylan, my man. Oh, there he is. Brian Scalabrine, the greatest white basketball player. We got to get Scalabrine on the show. He's a fun guy. I did his show a long time ago. He's a radio host, I think, on Sirius XM NBA. Somebody said Duncan Robinson. We're asking white American. Yes, white American. Yeah. It's amazing. The decline of the white American basketball player. Hey, we need some affirmative action here to get Whitey back in the NBA. I mean, come on. I mean, the guys that have they threw out to me, Duncan Robinson, Austin Reeves. I love Duncan. Duncan's one of my favorite people. Duncan has spent many an hour at the Dakich compound. He was Andrew, my son's roommate, in college. But, man, to think that he's the best white American basketball player. I text my son, I said, hey, is Duncan the best white NBA American player? He goes, yeah, he's up there. I don't know who else is there. We got to scour the books. It used to be, what was that guy Lee's name? He was a great high school player. He went, I think it was from St. Louis. He went and played for Billy Donovan after they won the national championships. He was with the Knicks. He could dunk. Not Greg Lee, not Treg Lee. The hell was his name? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah. Huh. I put it out on Twitter. So Chet Holmgren is a name. Wow. You know, one of the things that I'm fascinated by is our friends in the liberal sector and their continued fascination with Donald Trump. So Donald Trump hasn't been president for a while. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Donald Trump has been out of office since 2021, January 6th, apparently. Now it's 2023. We're literally coming down the home stretch of the Biden presidency. And you know what? People are still blaming Donald Trump. Yesterday in California, San Francisco to be exact, they whitewashed the streets. They put up Chinese flags all over the streets. Now you got for the dictator, Zhang, whatever the hell his name is. Now you got to understand this. You got to understand. You got to understand that this is the guy that unleashed COVID. This is the guy. Unleashed COVID. And so what's the first reaction to some clown from West Virginia, the clown state? But Trump. Really? What did Trump? Well, he got rid of the infectious disease department. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It's Trump's fault. No, it really is. It is amazing to me. Look, I'm not a Republican and I'm not a Democrat. I'm common sense. I tell people all the time. I absolutely voted Republican in the latest election here in Indianapolis because there was no way I'm going to let Joe Hogsett do a damn thing more if I had anything to say about it to our city. He let the idiots with the summer of love happen. He did. We can't have this. But it's not about Trump. I'm sorry, it's just not. This is about what's going on now and what transpired then. Mike Angelucci. Mike Angelucci is, former delegate from West Virginia's 5th House District, aviation geek, all things political. He looks like a guy from West Virginia. He's got that droopy, stupid face. He does. You know, he's fat, got a droopy, stupid face. I'm not sure because he's not smiling if he has all his teeth, but he is from West Virginia, so I'm guessing there's a family member in the woodpile. But anyway, I digress. How about the guy that dismantled the Department of Infectious Diseases 1 year before COVID? Forget about that. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that kind of stupid. The DJ show said, oh, the good old but Trump approach. Yep. Because of that, we got COVID, you effing idiot. Well, sometimes people do the talking for you. My son told me to be less hateful on Twitter, so I'm giving that a try. I don't want Aaron and Gary to be mad, though, so I think I'll maintain a certain, presence on Twitter. But why does it have to be but Trump? That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me why we show we can clean up our cities for a Chinese dictator, but we can't for our own American citizens? I don't know what's wrong with people. Hey, Marv Levy is 6,700. I don't even know. He may be dead. I don't know. I shouldn't even say that. I don't know whether he's alive or dead. I should have done my research. I'm sure he was a great man. He was a funny man. He was a very funny man, Marv Levy. He was. I don't know. Is he alive? I'm going to check it out. I should have done this research before, but I did not. He's 98 years old. All right. Marv Levy's wife calls Bill Belichick a cheater. She says, Bill Belichick is a cheat. I think he should retire, she said. Listen to this. I can't stand him. This is Fran Levy. I can't stand him. He's a cheater. He was rude to Marv. Bill Belichick was always jealous of Marv. He's a mean person, and I hope he never wins again. There you go. All right. You go, Fran. Bill Belichick is a mean person. Bill Belichick is a funny person. Bill Belichick is a smart person. Bill Belichick is a kind person. I mean, look, I'm not going to say everybody's only one thing, but I will say this. I will say good for Fran Levy. You know, I'm 61, and I really don't care about much other than my family. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yeah, I don't have enough money to retire forever, but I don't care about money anymore. I don't care about much. But my family, I do. And if I got to settle those scores, then go ahead, Fran Levy, and settle them. I'm with you, sister. Yeah. Hey, I heard this, and I knew this was going to be a problem because, well, players are so soft. Brian Cashman doubts that Giancarlo Stanton will be healthy. Giancarlo Stanton is the guy that doesn't hustle, who always worried about being hurt, always hurt, but he can hit bombs and has the most athletic batting stance in the history of baseball. He stands up there, and I'm telling you, he reminds me of me, going deep on the little kids at Highland High School or Lowell High School or Gavin or Morton. You know what I'm saying. Huh. Anyway, listen to this. We try to limit when he's down. But I'm not going to tell you he's going to play every game next year because he's not. He's going to wind up getting hurt again, more likely than not, because it seems to be part of his game. But I know that when he's right and healthy, other than this past year, the guy's a great hitter and has been for a long time. Now, if you don't, the backside of players, their agents get all testy. Their players get all sad. Somebody dare criticize me? Oh, my God. Good for Brian Cashman. If I'm Brian Cashman, you're damn right I'm criticizing him. Get your sorry ass out of the training room and start playing the way we paid you to play. Or at least get your sorry ass out there and play. And if you're going to play full speed. If you're not going to play, take your sorry ass to Guam and rehab. I don't want you around here. I used to not let players, I think I suspended one kid one time. Wasn't big on suspending guys, but I suspended one kid and he's like, he wore a suit to the game and thought he was just going to hang out on the bench where people would have kissed his ass. I said, you're not doing that. I said, as soon as warm-ups start, you're going to be on the bike, the elliptical. Not the elliptical, the bike, the Schwinn Aerodyne. And every time there's a TV timeout, you're going to be off it. And one of my assistant coaches is going to be there with you. You can slow down during the TV timeout, but you're going to go fast. It about killed him. You can't just give in to players. You can't just let them be martyrs. Screw that. And by the way, Ted Cruz is going to join us coming up here in about 5 minutes. I talked about Dan Campbell earlier today. The football gods will test you. Even guys that want to bite kneecaps, that was Vrabel that got his pee-pee cut off. He went for two. He went for two because he was smart. He wanted the ball back. He did not want the ball in the other team's hand at the end of the game. So here's what he said. Here's what I would say, because I tell my family this: just wear a diaper before some of these games. I give them an alert, and I say, put them on and be ready to roll. There you go. Yeah, just wear a diaper before some of these games. I need to wear a diaper when I travel. I won't explain, but he's right. Wear a freaking diaper. Between Candace Owens saying, get a helmet, life is hard, and him telling me, get a diaper, I'm all in on both. We'll be right back. Ted Cruz on the other side. Yeah, let's talk to the great Patriot.
Okay, so something I want to focus in on, because I don't want this to just, roll over people's heads. Not only are you breaking news, you are quite literally acting as a GM in some senses, helping to bring players onto certain teams, even coaches you've been responsible for finding new landing spots for. I mean, that really says something about how well you know the game inside and out and how much people respect your opinion.
Yeah, I was trying to be like a master of trust, if you will. Like people, and then almost like, it's funny because I had a GM come to me this offseason. He said, you know what, how much you've mentored me. You should shift gears and mentor us all. I said, yeah, I'm a reporter. He said, yeah, but you mentor us too. Like, you've been around it and you've seen it so much. So we're able to come to you with things. It's funny. I have at the NFL owners meeting every year, and the rest of the world doesn't know this. I have a day drinking day that I have at the owners meeting, and it's Mike Tomlin and I throw it. And it's only for head coaches and GMs. No other media is allowed to come. And the media over time has given us respect. Like, this is Glazer's thing. Let's not go there. And it's usually Tomlin and I and, upwards of 30 other guys. It's crazy. But what I also do is I always tell Tomlin and whoever the older coaches are, tell these young cats what's about to come across your desk, because they have no idea. Like, the craziest stories in the world, and you're not prepared for it. Because when you're in that position, you really find out how messed up everybody is. Like, it's not just your players, it's your coaches, it's your scouts, it's your GMs, it's the person in the cafeteria, it's everything. And then it's their family and the issues families are calling. And oh my God. And listen, these cats didn't go to school for this. They didn't go to school to be a psychiatrist, right? They went in the coaching to coach.
Right.
But when you're a head coach or a GM, that's part of the job. The other part is really, it all lands on your shoulders.
If you want to see what an American Patriot looks like, I don't know whether they're on Instagram or TikTok. I don't know where the hell I find them. But Ted Cruz destroying souls in Senate committees. If you're a coach, this is the essence of preparation. It's awesome, Senator. Hey, thank you for joining us. I want to get right into something. It's near and dear to our heart, Eventbrite. Eventbrite was squelching our friend Riley Gaines. You stepped in, OutKick stepped in, and we got Eventbrite to turn that around. Give me your thoughts on that fiasco.
Well, look, it's a manifestation of what we're seeing across big tech and across institutions in our country, which is they've gone woke. And when it comes to big tech, they use their power for censorship. They use their power against views that are disfavored. And I think what they were doing to Riley Gaines was disgraceful. I was glad to speak out against it. I was very glad OutKick spoke out against it. And that incident embodies, as you know, I've got a brand new book that just came out this past week, and it's called Unwoke: How to Defeat Cultural Marxism in America. And it is exactly about what you just asked about. It is about how every major institution in America has been taken over by the radical left, and it explains it. And each chapter is on a different institution. So it starts with universities. I call universities the Wuhan lab of the woke virus. It's where it was created, it's where it mutated, it's where it spread. And then from universities, it goes to K through 12 education, it goes to journalism, it goes to government, it goes to big business, it goes to big tech, it goes to entertainment, Hollywood, movies, TV, sports, and music. From there, it goes to science. And the last chapter is on China, which is a central nexus connecting it all. And what this book does is explains, number one, how the radical left took over each of these institutions. But number two, even more importantly, it lays out a clear practical step for how we fight back and how we take the institutions back. And this is a great example where you guys and I and others called them out. One of the steps, one of the tools we have is sunshine and transparency, because their views are wildly unpopular. Normal, rational people don't support grown men going into women's locker rooms and showering, schools forcing women to shower next to grown men. That doesn't make any sense, and it's the radical left's agenda nonetheless.
How do sports fight back? You mentioned the transgender issue, which has made people absolutely insane, but we see it everywhere. We see it in the NBA. Hell, hockey, everybody got mad because they didn't wear gay pride sweaters. How does the average person fight back?
Yeah. So there are lots of tools we can use, but I really advocate three different tools. One is transparency and sunlight, because the left's agenda is wildly unpopular. The second is increasing the negative costs, the harms that people face from going woke. And the third is for conservative business leaders and libertarian business leaders to invest in the organs of transmission of ideas. Buy a radio station, buy a TV station, buy a movie studio, buy a record label, buy a book publishing house. Actually, OutKick, you are part of how we fight back, creating alternative avenues to communicate. What you guys are doing is integral to the strategy of how we retake those institutions. You look at the NBA, which was happy to put Black Lives Matter emblazoned on the courts for an entire season. Well, you know what happened? Their viewership and their customers and ticket buyers plummeted, and they lost a ton of money. And you notice they very quietly just scraped it right off the court. That's part of how you hold them accountable. You increase the negative consequences. You change the cost-benefit ledger. And we're seeing victories like that over and over again. And what I advocate in the book on woke is systematically fighting in each institution to do exactly that.
You know, speaking of China, I just saw this and I'm stunned. San Francisco somehow, some way got its street cleaned in about 10 minutes. Now the communist dictator is coming in limousines, and we've got the streets of San Francisco lined with Chinese flag. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the country and the dude that put COVID into our lives in the United States. Am I going too far with that description?
You are not at all. You are absolutely right. And that, again, is a major theme of my book on woke. The reason the final chapter is on China is because China is intertwined with every one of these institutions. And there's a reason Joe Biden is there kissing the ring of Xi. I explain in this book how today's Democrat Party, tragically, is structurally pro-China. And the reason they're pro-China is their major stakeholders, big business, big tech, big universities, and big Hollywood, are all in bed with China. And so Joe Biden's there saying, we don't want to decouple from China. Well, you know what, Joe? Yes, we do. And we saw in the middle of COVID, number one, and I lay out in the book, in my chapter on science, the evidence that the COVID virus what escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese government lab. I think the weight of the evidence suggests that China created the virus through gain-of-function research. Then they suppressed the news when it escaped. They are directly responsible for the millions of deaths that came from COVID, for the trillions in economic loss. And Joe Biden and the Democrats won't hold them accountable. And even worse, they won't stand up to them. They won't delink our economy. During COVID, we saw a Chinese state-owned newspaper threatening to cut off life-saving pharmaceuticals, medicines, heart medicines, blood pressure medicines, cancer medicines that Americans need to stay alive as a tool of economic warfare. We cannot remain dependent on China. We've got to stand up to them. But, you know, the trip to San Francisco also embodies the massive hypocrisy of the left. Listen, San Francisco is a great American city, an iconic American city that has been utterly destroyed by radical left-wing politics. And the fact that 3 days ago they couldn't clean the streets, that the residents were told, I'm sorry, there have to be criminals everywhere on the street. There have to be homeless people. There have to be people shooting up drugs on the street. There have to be people defecating on the street. They literally have an app they sell in San Francisco that is called Poop Finder, where you can report human feces on the sidewalk. And yet when the head of the Chinese Communist Party comes, they miraculously clean it all. They remove the criminals. They remove the homeless people. Well, why the hell didn't they do that a week ago? Do the residents of San Francisco not count, or does the left only work for the Chinese communists?
Is it overblown, the crime that's going on across the country, including in D.C., where we're seeing carjackings, including, well, I guess the president's granddaughter? Do you think, I get it told all the time, well, that's overblown. That's overblown. Okay, well, in your view, is it?
It's not remotely overblown. One of the things we've seen over the last 3 years is crime rates skyrocketing across the country, murder rates skyrocketing, carjacking rates skyrocketing, assault rates skyrocketing. Look, in D.C., you're right. Someone tried to break into the car of the president's granddaughter. The Secret Service had to fire rounds. By the way, if that were just an ordinary citizen, if that were you firing rounds, you'd be in jail. But if it's the detail protecting the president's granddaughter, it's okay. We also had a member of Congress. We had a member of Congress, Henry Cuellar, carjacked in D.C. at 9 o'clock at night. He was at his apartment building. His apartment building filled with members of Congress, and yet they carjacked him. They stole his car. They stole his luggage at gunpoint. And the reason we're seeing this rise in crime is very simple. There are radical leftists, and we talk about this again in the book Unwoke. I talk about this at great length. Is we have policies that George Soros DAs and liberal elected officials are letting violent criminals go. The District of Columbia City Council voted to lessen the penalties for murder, to lessen the penalties for carjacking. You look at New York, Lee Zeldin, who ran for governor of New York, and he was running on a tough on crime platform. Now, tragically, he did not win, but in the middle of that campaign, someone literally physically and violently assaulted him, jumped on the stage with a sharpened keychain and tried to slit his throat. That guy was arrested and released within hours on a cashless bail. So even someone who is trying to murder a candidate for governor of New York, they don't keep that attempted murderer in jail even one day. When you release criminals from jail, you get more crime. And you know, Dan, the point is, normal people get that. Ordinary people get that.
Right.
And it's one of the real points of the book is the left, they only advance this wildly unpopular agenda through force and power or through indoctrination, which is why if we focus on it, if we highlight it, if we stand up and fight it, we can take these institutions back.
Conversation is really important. I watched your interview, your appearance with Bill Maher, and you know what?
Yeah.
Bill Maher apologized to you, and it seemed like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seemed like you were having a great time with him. Now, who would have thunk this? But isn't it amazing when people let go of political ideology and just have a discussion, common sense and logic seems to seep through?
Yeah, look, amen. I had a blast on the show with Bill Maher. I've watched it for a long time. First time I've ever been on the show. But look, I respect Bill Maher. He's an old school liberal, so he and I disagree on a lot of issues. But he believes in things like free speech, and he actually has the courage to stand up and defend them. And the point you just made is something I told Bill on a show just this past weekend. I said, listen, you have on this show, you have people from the left and right, and they talk to each other. And that happens almost nowhere in the media space. One of the real problems we have in America is we live in separate universes. The right listens to right-wing media. The left listens to left-wing media. We don't talk to each other, and we live, the worlds are so different. If someone disagrees with you with social media, you unfriend them, and everyone is in an echo chamber. And I believe if our country is going to survive, we got to talk to each other. I try to spend a lot of time going and talking to people who disagree with me. So I do a podcast every week. It's called Verdict with Ted Cruz. We do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've gone and done campus tours. We've gone to the University of Wisconsin at Madison. We went to Yale University. I actually talk about the Yale podcast in the book on woke, where we had 600-700 Yale students come out for the Verdict podcast on campus. And I would say about a third of them were left of center. And I know that because it was right after Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. And when I said that, about a third of the room erupted in applause. And I said, listen, from your applause, we're obviously coming from a different place in the political spectrum. I wanted to say to those of you left of center especially, thank you for being here. We've got to talk to each other. And the way we do the podcast on campus, we do about 90 minutes of Q&A, and it's all live. And we have a rule: if you have a hostile or antagonistic question, come to the front of the line. And we had a robust conversation. I'll tell you, Dan, afterwards, I went out and got drinks with a rabbi who works on campus. And he told me, he said, Ted, this was the biggest group of Yale students I've seen have a cordial, respectful, civil conversation on conservative ideas, he said, in 20 years. I think there's a hunger for it, and we need to talk to each other.
I think there's a real hunger for it. I think one of the problems, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, relative to universities, there's no consequence for disrespect. There's no consequence for antagonism. There's no consequence for somebody showing up at something like your deal and being a jackass, throwing paint or whatever. There's no consequence. I think consequence is important. Conversation, massively important. But you just can't have people acting like idiots, ruining it for people that want to have conversation without consequence.
You are absolutely right, and I'll give you bad news and good news. The bad news is what we're seeing on college campuses right now, the rabid anti-Semitism that is outpouring on college campuses. 35 student groups at Harvard signed a letter saying that all of the violence, all of the atrocities committed by Hamas terrorists, the civilians murdered, the women and children raped, the infants slaughtered, they said all of that is 100% the fault of Israel. That is ignorant, it is racist, it is anti-Semitic, and it is a manifestation of the cultural Marxists that have seized that institution. Just down the river at MIT, this week we have reports of Jewish students being violently and physically prevented from going to class by angry, threatening anti-Israel protesters, and Jewish students saying they don't feel safe on campus at MIT, and absurdly, the administration at MIT says they won't expel the students who are violently threatening other students and stopping them from going to class. Why? Because they're foreigners there on student visas, and if they expel them, they'll lose their student visa. Well, if you're a guest in this country, you should abide by our laws, and if you're violently threatening other students, you should be sent back to your home country. Look, that's a sign of just how sick these institutions are. Now, let me give you a positive sign on the other side, and this is a story I tell in the book on woke. You remember last year when a federal appellate judge went to Stanford Law School, and he was giving a speech at Stanford Law School, and angry protesters began screaming, began yelling, began threatening him, began screaming that his children should be raped. Well, when that happened, it was disgraceful. They stopped his speech. They shut down his speech. A dean came from the law school, the DEI dean came, and the judge thought that she would enforce Stanford's free speech policy. She didn't. She sided with the angry mob, and the line she kept saying is the juice worth the squeeze? It's painful to listen to you. Well, here's the good news. When that happened, number one, I wrote to the president of Stanford and then the dean of Stanford Law School calling for there to be consequences, what you just said, and they fired the DEI dean in response to that. Number two, I wrote to the Texas State Bar, and I said, look, to be a member of the bar, you have to pass a character and fitness exam. If you tried to do what those law students did in a courtroom, if you're a lawyer and you scream and yell at a judge, you will be held in contempt, you will be arrested and sent to jail. As a lawyer, you can't treat a judge that way. And I urge the Texas State Bar to engage in additional examination whether applicants from Stanford Law School engaged in that kind of violence. Well, you know what? The Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court wrote me back and said the Texas State Bar agrees, and now for graduates of Stanford and also Yale Law School, where they've had similar incidents, they're going to do additional examination into whether they've ever participated in harassing or threatening speakers. All of this is an example of increasing the negative consequences, and it's how we push back and start to take these institutions back.
Well, logic says you do, and that's great news. Last thing, if both win out and Alabama goes into the college football playoff ahead of Texas, will there be a Senate inquiry? Will people have to appear before you?
Look, I'm just saying this. My view is simple, which is hook 'em horns. It ought to be simple and straightforward. Texas is having an awesome season. I'm still mourning our one loss to Oklahoma. It was tragic. It was heartbreaking. Actually, ironically, the day Texas lost to Oklahoma, I was at A&M at the A&M Alabama game, which was another heartbreaking loss. And I will say, sadly, Kyle Field, I think, erupted in louder cheers that Texas lost than they did for an Aggie touchdown. And so I refrained from those particular cheers. I root for every Texas team, but I'm proud of the Longhorns this year. They're having a heck of a season.
Yeah, they're having a great year. Hey, I know you've got to run. I love talking to you. Second time you've been on. Thank you, sir. Great stuff.
Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. I just want to say to all your viewers, this book, it's not an abstract academic book. It's filled with stories. It's fun. It's interesting, and it's available in any bookstore. It's available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. I would encourage you, buy one because you'll enjoy reading it, but also Christmas is right around the corner. This makes a great gift. Buy a book for your mom. Buy it for your best friend, or even better, buy it for your kids because they need to know the garbage that the radical left is trying to indoctrinate them with. It's a great read, and it is useful. It gives you real tools to fight back against the lunacy we're seeing right now.
I'm going to get it to one of my family members as an educational educational tool so that she can come out of the darkness of wokeness. How about that?
Fantastic. Excellent. That's exactly what it's designed for.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dan.
I really appreciate it. I've kept you too long. Thank you. That's Senator Ted Cruz. I love having that man on my show. I think he should be president of the United States. I do. I think he's awesome. Look, I understand everybody's on this side or that side, but how about you just shut up and listen to the man? He listened to Marv listened to him, and it was great. Beth the Booker, you are the best. Beth, you stud, you. I get fired up, Aaron and Gary. I get fired up, Dylan and Nick Pardue. I do. That's why I left ESPN. This stuff. Holy hell, is this good. Boom! Where's my mic? Oh, man. Where'd my mic go? Here's my mic. Ted Cruz. Drop the mic, baby. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for being here.